Upcoming changes to Canada's MAID program have been altered, and they could be for the better. Let's get into it.
Oh, yeah!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. If you've been following MAID or medical assistance in death, we've talked a lot about it on this channel. I am a very firm believer that the changes that were coming up from the government later this year, or I guess earlier in the spring. Technically, we're just over about a month away at the time of filming this video from MAID being altered. If you're not aware of what medical assistance in dying is in Canada, well, I'll give you a brief cliff notes. Essentially, what started as compassionate care for those that are in pain, you had to qualify in order to get assistance in death. It's similar to the euthanasia of your animal when you're told that there's no other recourse and that we're talking about quality of life. Essentially, what we're talking about with human beings is the same kind of treatment that in dire situations where pain is the only option, they've offered an exit strategy for those who don't want to deal with any kind of repercussions of diseases, a terminal illness. And of course, we're now seeing in the Canadian government, there were changes on the way to medical assistance in death. And the Liberal government had been pushing for it for quite some time, to which they talked about increasing the eligibility for those with mental illness. Now, mental illness could fall under the lines of depression, anxiety, mental stress, and that if you wanted medical assistance in death, after March 17th of this year in 2024, well, you could simply go to the doctor and say, this is it, I've had enough, I'm done. And there would be no psychologist needed, no kind of medical examination, just you sign some paperwork and away you go. I was also told that once you sign that paperwork, family members can't intervene, they can't request an intervention or talk about getting some kind of psychiatric help, that once you've signed off on that, you've made your decision and it sticks. But now, Health Minister Mark Holland says that their government believes people with mental illness should qualify for MAID, but the system is not ready and is pushing the date out to 2027, which is good news because pushing it out to 2027 means there's a very good chance Justin Trudeau and the Liberals won't be in power. Hopefully, I mean, God, this country would be going to hell in a handbasket if that was the case. But by that time, some common sense government could be in place in the name of Pierre Poilievre. And I know for sure, and I'm almost for certain, while some conservatives have benefited the benefits or debated the benefits, I should say, behind MAID, benefited the benefits. I don't know where that came from. While they've debated it, I don't believe that the conservatives would stand behind allowing Joe Blow to go in off the streets and just say, this is it, I'm finished. So this would definitely be removed altogether. At least that's my hope. Of course, government.exe tweeting out here, if mental illness is enough to qualify for MAID, how many Liberals would be immediately approved? I've often said that if anybody's going to test out this system, Justin Trudeau should be the first volunteer. But let's listen to what was.
Good morning. I just had an opportunity to table legislation with respect to medical assistance in dying, where mental illness is sole underlying cause, with a 3-year extension. It will allow in 2 years for there to be a parliamentary review to assess the state of readiness of the system at this time. I can say that I have communicated with all of my provincial counterparts. I haven't had an opportunity with my territorial counterparts on this, but their response was very favorable, as I think you'll hear. They really do feel that they need more time to be able to look at.
For anybody who's not catching this, and I apologize, the audio is quite low for some reason on this. I've tried to up the audio multiple times here, and it's still coming in low. What Mark Holland is saying is that he essentially is not only pushing it to 2027, but asking for further review in 2027, meaning that it's basically taken out of the works right now unless they find the support to vote it back in and move it forward. And that essentially they're going to see where this goes. But let's continue.
I will state again that the question at issue here is a question of readiness. We accept equivalency in the suffering of mental suffering and physical suffering. And of course, here we're talking about mental illness. It shouldn't be conflated with mental health concerns. I will lastly say that the time that we have to adopt this is limited. We certainly are having conversations, Minister Varani and I, with our opposition counterparts, because we have a looming date in March by which we have to get this done in limited sitting days. But I once again want to thank the Joint Committee for its work. So the committee process really on the Senate and House side has been completed through that work, and the consultations they had and the recommendations were key to the decision that was made today and the legislation that we take.
So, again, basically saying that it needs to move along if it's going to. I think they say that it's not ready. I think the problem here is pushback. They've been made very well aware by the public that nobody wants this, that this is deadly for Canadians. The biggest problem that I have when it comes to medical assistance in death, especially when you talk about people's mental illness, people's depression levels, people's inability to cope. There was a story less than a year ago about a man who went in and requested medical assistance in death simply because he didn't want to be homeless. He didn't want to live on the streets. He couldn't afford life in Canada anymore and had said that I'd rather be dead than have to give up and live on the streets and be homeless. Now, if the Liberal government really cared about people's mental health, well, they'd take away the carbon tax and they would help to lower inflation and pay off some of Canada's debt. They'd stop suggesting that we give addictive drugs like fentanyl to children. They would stop with all these clown politics and start thinking about what Canadians actually need rather than simply trying to dismantle and burn down this country. But essentially, the Liberals have been good at burning down this country, or at least their leader has, throughout the last 8 years. And it's going to be interesting to see because rumors are circulating that the Liberal Party is now trying to push Justin Trudeau out, that they've had enough of him. We've certainly heard Liberal ministers over the last few months stating their frustration with Justin Trudeau, which is a mutiny at hand? I don't know, but when it comes time for an election, I still firmly believe, and maybe I'll eat my words, but by speculation, I think that Justin Trudeau still has the level of hubris to believe that he can win another election. And the fact that he's confident to run in another election, despite his drastically dropping poll numbers, tells me that there is some trickery going on here, or there could be something afoot in order to secure his seat in another election, despite the lack of confidence from his Liberal Party. Let me know what you guys think down below. Is this a good thing? I think it's great. I think it's better news than, March 17th looming over our heads. But let me know your thoughts down below. Do you think Justin Trudeau's going to make it to another election? And do you think there's going to be something funny going on should he get there? Make sure as you leave your comments and likes, do all the usual YouTube stuff. It helps us in the algorithm because, again, anytime we talk about MAID, anytime we talk about Trudeau, anytime we're talking about anything the government doesn't want you guys knowing about, we get buried in the algorithm. So any help you guys can give us to put a like on the video, a comment, share it out, get us out there in the algorithm. If it's your first time here, I hope the video's earned your subscription. As you're clicking that button, because you should subscribe, click your bell for notifications and join us this Friday on the channel. Our live streams have changed, so join us for Friday Night Fringe here on the channel at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Central, where we're going to sit down and talk about everything that happened this week, everything that I know that's coming up in the week ahead that we want to talk about, and a little bit of back and forth with the community. It's always great to have you guys in there. We got such a great community. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you there, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.